Very good morning and welcome to today's webcast, Simplifying Hiring Seamless Recruitment with Exelsys HR. Today we're going to be talking about a smoother hiring process with our partners at Exelsys, how their solution can streamline your recruitment processes to make it more efficient and effective. Just in time for seasonal recruitment, we all know we're getting into that busy period for our parks and marinas. Beyond that, we'll be discussing the universal challenges faced by parks and marinas alike, whether that's finding the right people for seasonal roles, managing high turnover, or just getting to grips with your hiring processes and how tech is really helping change that. Joining me today, we have our subject matter experts, Matt Ball and John Stoddart, who will be showcasing their solution in just a short while. Good morning to you both. Thank you for joining us. How are you both doing today?
Yeah, good. Thanks very much, Callum.
Good. Matt,
Hi,
how are
Callum.
you doing?
Thanks for having us. Yeah,
Nice
all
to
good.
see
Thank you.
That's great to hear. So before we get into the webcast today, please remember if you have any questions you would like to ask, please use the Q&A functionality at the top of your Teams call to submit them. And if you wish, you can also join us live on the webcast at the end by raising your hand, nice and easy. You can obviously direct those questions directly to the team. And please remember, though, that by joining us with your mic and camera, that this webcast is being recorded and you are consenting to that, and we may use those clips at another time on social media. So just to give you a quick overview of what to expect today, we're going to be discussing those challenges faced internationally by the marina and park industries before having a look at the Exelsys platform and then finishing off with our Q&A. But before we get into that tech side, let's talk about real-world recruitment struggles that the parks and the marinas are facing today. So John and Matt, let's start big picture. What are some of the biggest recruitment challenges that these industries are facing?
Yeah, hi, Callum. It's really a sort of struggle to get the best people. There's a lot of opportunities out there. So especially with parks and marinas having the majority of their sort of business in the sort of summertime, then they go through a big sort of program of recruitment in sort of late winter, spring to bring lots of people on board. They increase their workforces a lot. So it's having a good streamlined process that identifies and brings on the best people, gets them trained and onboarded and ready to hit the ground running when the business really needs them.
Mm-hmm. And turnover is a bit of an issue, I think, in the both of those industries. I know from personal experience, turnover is particularly
Yeah.
high in parks. Why do you think that is?
Uh, it's it turnover in parks. I guess that there are lots of opportunities for people to go and do other things. And so for me, that would be about having an efficient, cost-effective process to get people into the business, managing them well, letting them use self-service type functionality if they can, but also delivering, as good as possible job roles so that they do something meaningful and want to stay. Good reward. Good reward.
I think a lot of that industry also is under pressure because historically there's been a lot of employment of folks in Europe, and obviously now they're trying to hire from a new pool of talent, and that new pool of talent is coming up through education, and maybe they've got sort of expectations about where they want to go, and they're thinking about it short term. I think there's quite a lot of short term thinking of it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to do that as a stopgap for 1 year, and then I'm going to go on to another thing. So I think one of the other things in HR is about creating this expectation for a person about they start here and they move through the business. And if you can retain that person, they start off, they work in different areas of the park or the marina, and they work their way up into more senior roles. If you can give more of a sense of progression and where it's all going, I think that's more important now than maybe it was 5-10 years ago, where there was more availability of a much bigger pool of talent for seasonal work. So I think creating a little bit more of that sense of structure and shape of the business and where can I go in that business is important. And I think that's really where you can use an HR system to build a view of where can I go in that org chart in the longer term.
And I think there's maybe I can personally talk from Holiday Park view on that, but I think there's a perception that there's not anything in there, there's no growth. I mean, I started in Parks when I was 16. I was only meant to be there to get me through school. 17 years later, I got thrown out. It was a long slog, but they're full on businesses. I don't think people see that. I think they only see the front of house stuff almost. So it's your reception, your housekeeping, your maintenance, your bar staff. When actually behind that, you've got finance professionals, you've got your marketing teams. For us, obviously, we're supporting professional services and that sort of way.
Maybe I'll make one more comment on that, Callum.
Well,
we've seen in other markets like telecommunications and professional services and what have you, people move around seats. And actually in a park, if you can move people around and they see every part of that business, they become a brilliant professional in the, let's say, the marketing and the presentation of that park and also in management. So I think if people can be moved around different seats, kind of season by season or trimester by trimester, that can be a really good model for it.
Yeah. And obviously, so Exelsys is here to digitize. So do you think that businesses are still relying too much on manual recruitment processes from what you're seeing when you're talking to people that are onboarding?
Generally speaking, yes, because either they'll sort of dip their toe into a bit of digital, and they might use job boards to go out and get lots of CVs in, but it's not done in a sort of comprehensive, integrated way. So you really need to look at having a platform that will allow you to use job boards, that will allow you to advertise jobs on your own website. Plus also another great way of getting new talent in is a referral scheme for your own employees. So you've got to be able to deal with all these people, get them in the top of the funnel, and then have something really efficient that takes them through quickly, gets them signed up, and then allows them to be onboarded and ready to go when the season starts.
Yeah. Maybe if I could chip in there, one other thing that we do see, not only just in the parks and marinas, but more widely, is that it's really difficult to set expectations and give people a great experience if you're just managing them on a spreadsheet. So if the first experience of that business is they really care about me and they really, they're talking to me like a human, and I'm getting responses in a timely manner. It's really difficult to do that on spreadsheets. So I think a lot of customers that we work with, we see them buy HR for the self-service, for the, who have we got? Have we got the right contracts in place? Have we got, all the compliance or whatever? But that they don't necessarily think about that experience of the individual right at the beginning. And if I can get a really slick process, they come into that business feeling really good about how they're going to be looked after. And again, that impacts retention, that impacts kind of expectation setting. So digitizing it can have a massive effect on how good people feel coming into the business and therefore how long they kind of anticipate they're going to stay.
And I think on that point, these sites are often quite rural, so your actual employee pool is very, very small. So if you've not got that recruitment process right, you're going to damage that relationship. But if you're in these small communities, well, you've messed it up for everybody, because that word of mouth.
Don't get a second bite.
No.
But you want if you've got a part of you is a big seasonal workforce, you want some of those people to come back the following summer and the summer afterwards. The first time they may get, they might not make it. They get a nice rejection email rather than just being ghosted. And then they're still going to come back the following year to apply for the job. So having, like Matt said before, having a really nice, elegant process that deals with everybody coming through, and sending sort of mass emails is possible, but it just makes that little bit of difference as to how somebody feels about the business afterwards.
Absolutely. Fantastic stuff. That seems to take us to a good place, actually, where we should probably look at the solution in action. And just before we do, we'll have a look at what we're gonna walk through today. So we're gonna look at how the Exelsys HR can simplify the recruitment process. We're going to understand how the solution enhances the candidate engagement experience, what we've just literally been talking about, making sure we can get that right, and see how implementing Exelsys HR ensures consistency and efficiency across your hiring practices. And I think just to put it into perspective before we look at Exelsys, we use it ourselves. Exelsys is a product and a solution that Elite Dynamics is fully onboarded with, and it is fantastic from our point of view. So let's take a little look at the Exelsys platform. And remember, if you've got any questions as we're going through, you can submit them and we'll pick them up at the Q&A in just a few minutes' time.
We're going to talk a bit today about Exelsys, but really sort of focusing down on what we're showing on the screen just now. So that's the kind of recruitment and onboarding process, and then just a little bit about the Exelsys app and what the sort of typical employee experiences with self-service, booking holidays, booking training courses, that sort of stuff.
And we're gonna miss out on appraisals and training timesheets and all of those other bits and payroll. So we'll just focus on those key elements, as you say. So let's kick off with recruitment. John, do you want to talk us through what we're going to see, and then I'll jump into the app?
Yeah, sure. So Exelsys has the functionality on recruitment is really good just now, I think. So it's really pretty easy to use, controls the process, allows you to sort of put jobs out either on job boards, through your own website, or recruitment consultancies, or a blend of those. It takes you through the whole of the interview process, making offers. You can send out employment contracts with digitally signable. So it's and then there's a sort of integrated onboarding checklist as well that gives internal tasks. It's a really nice process.
And if we talk about onboarding as well, then we can show the two in one. So
yeah, sure.
What's exciting about onboarding, John?
It really sort of makes the whole process consistent, and for when you're bringing on employees, it's really important to make sure that they're trained properly, to make sure that they've done things which they have to do, the mandatory documentation, and also you can tweak the onboarding so that everybody gets everything that they need to do, but people from different departments get department-specific onboarding training as well. It speeds it up, makes it consistent, and then everybody gets access to all the company documents via the app. So an employee hits the ground running faster.
Very good, very good. So let's look at what that looks like in reality. So we're jumping over now to the Exelsys full user interface. I just wanted to take one example before we look at that interface. One of our very long-standing clients, been with us for nearly 10 years, which is CASART. So what they do is they use the Exelsys application to push job vacancies onto their website. So you can see these quite kind of detailed job descriptions here, and I can apply for them online. So really the recruitment process starts with the ability to push these vacancies either online or out into the organization to look for internal recruits. So let's look at what that looks like in Exelsys itself. So this is our home area that we're in here, and I'm going to jump into recruitment. So the first and foremost, you can look at recruitment as a whole. You can look at all the trends and the, let's say, the status of recruitment in terms of the number of roles that are hiring and where things are in the process. and a little bit more detail on where things are versus, kind of entered versus shortlisted or what have you. So there's some useful initial features there. If I then go into the vacancies and look at the vacancies that we have right now, we've got a few that are set up here in the system, in the demo system. I'm going to click on accountant, and that's going to give us the details of an accountant role that we want to hire. It's an external vacancy. It's being advertised online as a result, and you can see some of the budgets and the number of people that we want to hire for this role. And we've actually pushed it out to recruiter groups, so the best recruiters, headhunters can actually log in to the system. They're only going to see this bit of the system and help with the recruitment process. We've got a vacancy media plan, which is pushing it out to specific job sites that we've designated. And we have some notes, some details of the job. Now, if I hadn't bothered to create a job description for this, I can actually create one based on the role of accountant and the business that we're running. So it's going to create me, using AI, a nice overview and a job role for an accountant based on what's available out there in the AI world. Then we've got any documentation related to this role, specifically any user fields I've associated with it, etc. So nice and simple, easy to set up these vacancies. Then I can jump in and I can look at the people who've applied for a particular role. So I can start either by doing a job application match. So if I'm looking for my accountant vacancy, the one I've just been looking at, I might look for people who are, let's say, high school qualified. Maybe they've got a couple of years experience already. Maybe we wanted to hit more than 30 minimum qualification score. So by setting out these different features here and filling these items in, we can immediately identify people who are going to be fit for the role. Or we can see for the particular vacancy, so I can go and filter here. Again, I can look for the accountant. There we go. So that's all my accountant folks. And I can look at them by those that are interviewed, those that have been shortlisted, for example, those that have been to interview and have passed the interview. So we can very, very easily see where we are with all of those folks in the process. And then I can jump in and have a look at my applicants as well. So this is the final bit of this kind of recruitment interface, which is kind of useful to see. I'm going to go and have a look at this chap, Benjamin. So Benjamin, we've got all of his details here that we've captured in the online workflow, including any documents, maybe if there might be a requirement to prove a kind of right to work visa or similar. And you can also see that interviewed for bookkeeper and also entered for accountant. So an individual can apply for multiple roles and there'll be one individual in the system. And then at the end of the process, we could anonymize the applicant if they phone and then kind of email in and say, please delete my information, or you can anonymize on a mass basis in the system as well, or on a scheduled basis. So lots of nice features there. Then John mentioned checklists. So we're just going to very quickly have a look at those checklists. So what we have is onboarding and offboarding checklists. So this is where you might have things like exit interviews and handing your car keys back and all of that kind of stuff. For onboarding, you can see all of the processes that are required, right to work visa, specific ID, compliance training, creation of email address. If we look at this one, we can see that this has been assigned to a specific employee in IT. Any notes that are associated, any documentation that's relevant. But what this allows us to do is push these tasks out to members of the team, give them a time limit for completing that once the individual has moved into the employee role. They've been placed into an employee role from a vacancy. And if I look at myself as John Roberts, I'm logged in as this chap called John Roberts, I can see all of my tasks. So the tasks appear in my self-service interface right here. So this leads us nicely into self-service. I'm going to hand back to John. John, just talk us through what self-service is all about, why it's important, and then we'll have a quick look at what that is in the interfaces.
So most employees will interact with Exelsys via a native app on their smartphone or a sort of cut down version on a tablet, something like that. For certain, if you're an HQ worker, you might even do it via sort of Microsoft Teams. So it gives you a cut down version of the platform, just it just gives you the things that you do on a day-to-day basis or a week-by-week basis. So that's booking holidays, reporting absences, booking training courses, gives you access to company documents, sort of so that there's a repository where people can just go and find things. They don't have to go and ask for them. And one of the really important things that people like is to see their payslips appearing on the app. So it gives it sort of just allows people to do the things that they need to do for HR in a convenient way at a time that suits them, and it's not difficult to learn, and it's not difficult to remember.
So I'm going to jump in and just show what that looks like on the screen again. So we're logged in as John Roberts. So we've got the ability to view balances, for example, check out how much entitlement I have for different types of leave. I can make an absence request here, which is going to allow me to check in and say, when do I want that leave from until. It's not going to let me book dates that I previously booked. It's also not going to let me book over bank holidays and things that are already kind of designated as leave. So I can go and type my details in, and then I can see how that is progressing through the approval process. The other thing I can do is either enroll on courses or check courses that I've already been on in the past. So this is a whole bunch of courses that I've done as John Roberts. And I can update my personal and work information. So here's my personal data. So I can update that as and when I need to. Details of anything to do with my resume, home address, etc. And also work details, my classification. I can view it, not change it. My compensation, so I can view that. Maybe update things like bank details if appropriate, although that's usually held in the payroll. And then any documents, so I can upload. Maybe they're expiring documents, classified documents here that I need to update my new driving license because I'm working as a driver, deliveries or similar. And then I've got user fields that are configurable. So all of this stuff is in the home section, and you can see my to-do list down here as well, which if you move to professional edition allows you to have these tasks. What that looks like in the other version of the application that John mentioned, I'm just going to go in. This is as if we are working on an iPad, so I can see all of my details here. I can see my documents. I can see my payslip. So this is a light version of the interface, which would be used on an iPad, on a phone, and it can even be a downloadable native application. And you've got all sorts of features here. So I can log in, I can check the absence planner here, see who in my team is on and off.
And it's very configurable as well. So a company can choose just how much they show or how much they don't show. So it can be a really simple app for employees that doesn't overwhelm them with buttons that don't work or don't take them anywhere. So it's a really clean interface.
Thank you very much for that demo. It was really insightful. Thank you for sharing that with us. It is worth knowing at this point that we only seen a very, very small component of the Exelsys HR platform, and it is an end-to-end digital HR solution. I think it's important that we say that just now, only a teeny tiny bit that we saw today, because we are focusing on that recruitment focus in time for recruitment season. If you do have any questions that you do want to submit, you can use that Q&A functionality at the top of your Teams call, or raise your hand if you do want to join us here to ask any questions before we wrap up today. So we are going to get into that Q&A. So what do we think, John and Matt, do you think are the biggest time-saving benefits for a business that are going to use Exelsys?
Biggest time savers. It moves a lot of stuff from being done by HR, the sort of admin stuff, and it moves that on. It allows employees to be able to do that on the app in time that suits them. So it frees up HR to do other things, and typically that is the sort of face-to-face discussions with people that really need sort of that need face-to-face proper counselling and discussions, rather than booking holidays and other type of admin-y things.
It also centralizes everything, Callum. So I think the other thing is you've got everything in one place. A lot of these processes, you're going into a contract system, you're going into your kind of spreadsheets, you're going into all these different things, and you can get them all to be automated in one place. So that means that your HR and recruitment teams can simply be doing everything in one interface. They can see exactly where they are in the process, and that means you can just make quicker decisions. I can see everybody that's entered in the system. I can see everyone that's made it, first interview, second interview, through to job offer. So it just gives you that one single view of everything, which is otherwise scattered across lots of different places.
Yeah. So
Yeah, if I can jump one last thing in there. We've been talking about recruitment, and sort of, old school recruitment, even a few years ago, would involve, when it came to signing an employment contract, would be printing out the contract, putting it in an envelope, sending it to the candidate, and then getting it back. That could be a week cycle. You can now do this using a digital signature and have that whole process done in an hour.
And that's
So
what you want,
that
isn't
is, that is just a complete light speed difference between how things were even just a short number of years ago.
So for those businesses that are potentially still relying on their spreadsheet and their manual process, what would you say is the first step towards making that recruitment easier and digitizing? Scary as that might be for some HR professionals, they've been in their ways for a very long time. We know from our own experience, digitizing can be scary for people that perhaps aren't open to the idea.
Could I jump in on that one, John? I just had one comment on that before you kind of drop in some comments, which is a lot of it's about business case, and I think actually looking at the business case for why it makes sense to do it. There are a lot of costs or hidden costs around the candidates that you didn't onboard, or the candidates you couldn't access, or the compliance, the cost of a compliance issue that you have with somebody because of a right to work visa, or kind of missing documentation, or hiring someone you shouldn't have. I think a lot of it is looking at where have problems happened in your business in the last 2, 3, 5 years around recruitment, around people management, and then using that as a justification. Well, if the HR system will cost less than an employee to run on a kind of year by year basis. So if you think about it, like you're hiring a person to fill a gap, to address an issue which you've had previously, the business case can stack up incredibly quickly. So I would say that's one thing that often people say, I need an HR system because I need an HR system. If you look at the underlying business case and numbers, you can get a really, really clear ROI. Sorry, John, to interrupt there.
Yeah. And the sort of yin and yang of that is HR systems, you can roll them out incrementally. You can start off doing self-service and recruitment, and then maybe, a couple of years down the road, when you're happy and you're settled, you can start rolling out appraisals, or you can do things, we've got some functionality about clocking on and clocking in, clocking off remotely, and having that geotagged. You don't have to do it all right at the start. You can start with the bits that make sense, that really add value, and then you can roll it out as you go along.
Perfect. Take it nice and easy, slow and easy, ease them in and add on, but it's the right thing, especially if you've got perhaps a business that is slightly resistant. You can do it in incremental steps, would absolutely help roll that out. And I think it's very easy if we're saying, okay, you can go and you can do your appraisals. I've been part of businesses where an appraisal system wasn't even in place at all. So actually having the tech to do it, there's still some work that's going to happen in the background from HR, but it will alleviate that pressure moving forward, and doing it in steps. So definitely help that. So Matt and John, if anyone's interested in taking the next step with Exelsys, what is the best way for them to get started?
Yeah, well, speak to your Elite Dynamics account manager. They'll get in touch with us, and we'll set up a sort of demo of the system. You've had sort of 10 minutes, a 10-minute sort of sneak peek here. Typically, a sort of first sort of basic view of the platform takes about an hour, including questions, and that'll give you a really good idea of what it is, what it does, and how it would work for you. Typically after that, if you want to see anything in more detail, we'll come back and you can get a sort of deep dive into bits. If not, we'll then go through the process of, supplying you with a quote and what the sort of modules that you'd get.
So I've got a question here for you from two questions from our attendees today. The first one, and I hope this makes sense to you. I use Parim or Parim. It must be, I'm assuming, is some sort of HR system. So they're using that at the minute. Why should they swap out?
Why should you swap HR systems? Well, I mean, the good thing about Exelsys is it integrates with Business Central, where all your or sort of Parks ERP information is. So you'll be able to exchange information directly into your accounting system. So you'll get information around sort of it could be from training costs, it could be from working hours, it could be sort of project costing. So there's that. And also, if you really like being on the sort of inside the Microsoft world, that's our architecture. So
Yeah.
hosted on Azure, very secure. You've got a whole load of personal information that you need to have encrypted. So it fits with the sort of IT strategy that many people that Elite Dynamics have as customers. It fits with their IT strategy.
Perfect.
I would
think
also
you
say,
actually answered the second question there as well. So I'll let you, Matt. You can expand on the first point because you answered the second.
yeah, I was only going to say that Parim is more focused around kind of workforce management from a scheduling point of view. So it's scheduling and holidays and such like. So I think Exelsys does cover a lot more in terms of it. It has that depth of everything from recruitment all the way through to offboarding employees, everything in between, the training, the appraisals, the health and safety, I believe that it covers all of those angles more deeply, and it is a very customizable solution, which means that it can grow. Exelsys has got customers with 5,000, 10,000 employees on, right? So it can grow to a very significant deployment over time, even though you can start with those baby steps that John mentioned earlier on. So it really does have that kind of depth to cater for the longer term.
Fantastic. I think it's probably worth saying that you have joined an HR solution webcast today. So something in what you're using currently obviously isn't hitting the spot. So it might be worth reaching out to get that introduction, have the conversation, find out what the pain point actually is in your business and see how Exelsys can address that. Because you're on the hunt, clearly. Fantastic stuff. So thank you very much to everyone that's joined us today. We will take a little look at our future webcasts. If you do want to reach out to your account managers, you can do so, and they will introduce you to the guys here at Exelsys. So in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to be welcoming brand new partners eNotion on the 12th of March at 2 p.m. This one is very much for friends over in finance. So a little change of pace from our recruitment. eNotion provides Power BI that gives you deeper insights into your financials across all your locations and easy to digest dashboards. Then on the 26th of March at 11 a.m, we'll be joined by Rentals United, our integrations partner. We're partner crazy for the next 6 weeks, and they'll be able to connect you with the likes of Airbnb, Booking.com, and many other OTAs to maximize your exposure and improve those revenue opportunities. And that's as we move into the month of March, looking at performance monitoring and improvement. So once again, thank you to everyone who has taken the time to join us today. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you, John and Matt, for taking the time out of your day as well. We look forward to working with you all again in the near future. So thank you, and we will see you all soon.
Great stuff.
Cheers.
See you later.
Thanks, team.
Callum.
Cheers for now. Thanks, Callum. Bye-bye.